Hey, this is I'm here today to do a video on how to digitally paint in Photoshop, how to digitally paint a natural background, nature scene. And the nature scene I've selected is a suburban neighborhood, kind of in the morning hours. There's going to be a school bus and houses in the background, a street, and the front yard. All right, so a little bit of direction in the beginning. You can see what I've done here is I've chosen a layer to do a little sketch on to get an idea of where I'm going to be putting stuff and what I want to draw. And that's just usually helpful. Put it down on a canvas before paint so you know what you're going to be doing. And I can do opacity. You can change the opacity up here. It would be at 100%. I used a black marker. You can change that. I like to put around 20%. And then after we're done, we'll just uncheck the visibility of this layer, and it'll be all gone. And so I have gone ahead and green screen the background right here. You do that just by coloring it. It's a good way to select all of this green area. If you turn on contiguous or off contiguous, you'll select all that green real easily. Okay, now to begin. We're going to work from the background to the foreground. You'll find that this is really helpful when you're doing these things, so you don't have to, fix little mistakes on edges. Let's see. This is kind of what the process you would do when you're not digitally painting, but just regular painting, traditional paint and canvas. This is the style you would do. I'm going to pick a color right around like a morning sun color. We'll do that color. What I'm going to do first, I'm going to lay some kind of rectangular shapes down just to get some of the major blocks of color down. See, this is going to be a bush right here, so I'm just going to do that right there. This is pavement or concrete sidewalk kind of thing, so we'll do a gray right there. School bus, we can come down here and just select that school bus, get a color down right there, and then for the road it would be just a darker gray. Let's see, it's going to be probably a orangish gray. And let's see, where is that? There it is. Okay, so we've got a road. Anytime you're using pencil on this layer, you want to do something that has a pretty stiff edge. All right, so there we go. And for the rest of the green, I'm going to choose a natural green. We're going to go a little more yellowish, and then we'll fill it in. I don't want any of this toxic green coming through the edges or cracks. By the time we get done with all this, there won't be any of that green showing. All right. So now that we have the sky background, we're going to work with the roofs. We want to get the background. We're working background to foreground. So the sky is furthest back, and then the house's roofs. I'm going to use a very ragged brush to do, let's see, a roof. Let's see, we'll do a kind of a brighter orange, gray. Let's see, that'll be a good color right there. The thing about roofs is there's a pretty drastic light-dark difference. And we'll probably go into a cool color, cool gray. Once we've got the highlights down, we're going to go into the dark, the recessed areas or the shadows. We'll do a cooler gray. And I'll just go ahead and save those two on my palette right there. And as I'm talking about this, I noticed there's also a chimney. I'm going to have to do the chimney first because it's actually behind the roof. We'll do a very non-saturated red, and I'm pressing down real hard Want to get a real flat color there. We'll zoom in and then get a darker shadowed area. We'll make it more gray instead of making it blue. That way the shadow is on this side of the chimney because the sun is in the back over there. Or at least we'll say it is. And that's how we'll do the rest of the backgrounds. Alright, so because if the sun is behind the roof, then this roof over here is not quite facing it. Because it's morning sun, it's very directional. It would mean that this roof would be a little darker. The other side is going to be this color probably, but we can't see that other side. Alright, so I'm getting this roof in. You know, if it's because it's so far away and it's really not that important, I'm going to keep it pretty abstract. We're not going to add any little what would that be, the shingles the shingle texture. We're not going to add that in. We're just going to keep to basic shapes and colors and not do too much shading. Let's turn the pencils even down lower so we can see what we're doing. Alright, so let's make sure, whoops, coloring on the wrong layer. Okay, there we go. There, and you know, we'll go ahead and just put a gray down here. It'll help to have a few different colors as I'm layering on top. And let's see, let's go ahead and turn that off because it's really messy. Now this shadow does not look much like a shadow anymore. Let's see here. We're going to go a little bit darker than that, maybe a little bit cooler. Alright, we'll come back in over on top of that again and do another shadow. I'm going to turn the yee-hee-hees off. And so we can get a good idea. I don't know if that yee-hee-hee will be exactly where it is, so I want to make it sure it's real good. You can see how the roof line up here isn't perfectly sharp, and that's good because, you know, stuff in the distance is blurrier than stuff up close. I want this to be abstracted and blurry. That way it feels more realistic and keeps things in the foreground important and things in the background just kind of a little bit of a you know, something nice to look at. But not the focus of your attention. Alright, so we'll go to something cool, something dark, and now we'll go to a smaller brush. Alright, let's say this is like the inside of the overhang right here. And I'm going to twist that brush around a little bit. Oh, go away. How do I make that go away? Anyways. I hate that. Go away. Oh, there we go. Alright, I'm sorry about that. So we've got the roof on the house over there. We're going to do one more house roof in the background over here. Let's see, we'll do a little bit of a darker, more of a blue house roof over back here. Actually, it might be brighter, you know, because it's kind of getting lost in the haze. We'll treat it like it's mountains or something like that. Alright, so a little bit smaller right there. Give it a little bit of a highlight. Alright, and now we're going to do a darker version. And you know, actually I probably should have made this house look a little different, not have the same angle as the foreground house. Maybe we can put a chimney right here or something. Alright, do a little bit darker. The further away you get, the less difference there is in the shadows. You see up close it'll be very light and very dark, and in the background it'll be light and just kind of dark. Let's see, now we're going to put like a tree or something right here. That will be... We need to make sure we get everything behind the tree drawn in. I'm going to go ahead and just fill this area right here because we might want a few little cracks to show through the tree. And that way it'll look more natural. Alright, so we've got all that taken care of back there. Now we just need to do a tree. I've got a brush over here that works really well for trees, only it's not too good for background trees because it's very specific brush. So let's try to find a better brush for something far away, which might be something like this. Let's go to dark blue-green because it's in the distance. We're going to go to a really small brush. You can see there it's not too dark. We're going to go a little bit darker, a little more blue, because this is going to be a shadow over here. Now let's do one more pass. Coming around for one more pass. And it's a little darker. Alright, we've got that, we've got this area going, looking right. And now we're going to do a little driveway, I guess. Something maybe a little lighter, a little more blue, and it's got to be very, very rough. Now we'll just keep this as our grass. Maybe give it a kind of a smudging over here. And then we'll go back over on top of it again. Alright. Now, I'm going to say this will be road right here. And we might want like a sidewalk coming down here. I can kind of see pencils that I drew in a sidewalk there, but that looks like it's a little too large to be a sidewalk. So we're going to cut that down. And that's all we're going to do for it now. We've got it in place. It's going to be foregrounds, so we need to wait until we're done with this background. Alright, so now we get this gutter thing going. We'll make it a like a lighter gray. There we go. And let's see, the bus is going to be like right here. Let's just go ahead and mark it off. Alright, so next thing we would do would be to get the house front. We're going to make it, I don't know, like a blue. Let's see. We want it to be very low saturation blue. Oh, that's too blue. Okay, more of a gray. Now let's go back and see. That looks too bright. Alright. We want it to be darker than the roof, so it feels like it's a house front. And it feels like it's not in the light. This is a shadow. Alright. we'll say it's a one-story house and that it's right there. All right, next we're going to go back to bushes. Want it to be kind of green, pretty dark. This is a little too bright, but we need a couple of levels for the bushes. Not too much, but I don't want it to be flat bushes. All right, we're going to go a little bit brighter for maybe a sidewalk up here. Just a quick level would be fine. Now we want it to be, we want this grass to be dark. We'll kind of go cooler too, less saturated. Imagine it's going to be the house is casting a shadow. All right. Now let's go with a little bit of a door right here. We'll go just slightly darker. Just enough to show an impression of something. We can do like a window over here. Second window. Alright, so then we're going to do a little under the bushes right here. Let's make that sidewalk even smaller. Alright, now we're going to do the bushes. We'll come back and do the grass after we get these bushes done. So something darker, a little more blue. Okay. Just kind of lightly tapping. You can hear my brush hitting or my pen. Alright, so we've kind of got a bush formed right there. Now let's get a little bit darker under here to make sure it feels like there's a shadow under here. Maybe some like shutters over here or something. Okay, so now we've got that. That's nice and blurred enough to where it doesn't distract too much. I think I want to bring in a little bit of a shadow. I'm going to deselect this right here so I don't get anything in there because I'm making the brush big. I want to use a light flow and just kind of darken it a little bit. What we're doing there is just kind of creating a secondary shadow under the roof, the gutter. Alright, and I think that looks good. We're going to go on to the grass now. I'm going to choose a different brush. Well, actually I can probably use this brush still. I'll just use some light tappings again, and that'll just bring a little bit of this color back into it and give it a texture. Just looks kind of like grass there. Alright, now there's going to be a place where a driveway would meet, so let's go ahead and add that in there. Let's make it dark. We'll show that it kind of cuts off the sidewalk there. And we'll need to give the sidewalk definition. We need to give it an edge. There we go. Well, I guess it would kind of come down. I don't know what sidewalk. I don't live in a sidewalk neighborhood, so I'm not quite sure. But I'm going to go down to like a 7 and try to give it a little bit of an edge. Just a little bit, not too much. Alright, so I think that's got that pretty well. We're going to come back and we're going to give it a little bit of a darkness on that edge. Give it a shadow. There we go. Do the same thing here. And now for the bus, we're going to keep drawing the bus over here. It is in front of the grass. Let's do a little bit of grass back here. Alright, there's our grass. That's good enough. Let's do the bust now. So the bust is going to be about right here. We'll come in with the good brush and get those details in. Let's make sure we got everything. Alright, that is the next foreground. So we'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to give it this driveway over here a little bit of a definition. Alright. Now for the school bus. Alright, these black stripes right here, I'm not going to do full black. If you do a full black, it's going to feel like it's in the foreground with this inking. So we want to do something a little bit lighter, something that's going to trick the eye into thinking it's further away. Alright, so we've got the bus stripe right there. Whoops, that's a little wavy. I'm going to turn my canvas so I can get a better stroke here. Okay, artists stroke a lot. I do a lot of stroking. And then we're going to have, that looks a little too, the perspective looks off on this line right here. So we'll give it a few more strokes, better strokes. And then maybe a light stroke right here. Alright, so we'll come back later and we'll give, well, let's see. We could come back later and give it a multiply layer like I did right down here. If you see this bus, I gave it the darkness and I gave it some texture on a multiply layer. We want this bus to look like the same bus down here because it is. So I am going to go ahead and use some of the same colors up here as we have down there. It's good to paint over your base to give it more color and have little peaks of color shining through, especially when they're the same color like yellow and stuff. Alright, so we've got the bus top here. Let's give it a little reflection of the morning sun. Gotta make sure we don't select the part where the pencil is. Alright, so now we're going to do the windows. And we'll do like a dark gray for those. And I've pretty much been using the same brush the whole time. This is a nice brush I'm using. I like it because it's it has a little bit of texture to it, and also it's got what else does it have? It's got texture to it, and it's not a real clean edge. Alright, so the school bus looks pretty stiff. I'm not sure why it's looking so stiff. Let's see what we can do about that. Maybe the multiply layer is where we're going to fix it. Alright, so those black things are sticking out, I guess, so we'll have a shadow casting from underneath this. I feel like the school bus might be a little too bright. Alright, let's see here. Give it a little bit of light. Okay, that's a little too small. We give it a little bit of a shadow. I should probably pull up a reference of a school bus because I feel like I'm missing. I don't know what the back end of a school bus really looks like. Maybe we could put a little bit of red back there. Alright. We've got to get a black underneath the bus. Black stripe under there. I feel like what makes is making this look wrong is this right here. How the the window bar, I guess, is not connecting solely down to the next one, and it's got a line up there. Because of the angle, I guess you wouldn't see that right there, but you would see it down there. You would see the bottom. Okay. We've got that now. We're going to move on to the grass over here. We are going to have a small sidewalk. We'll go ahead and get that drawn on. So next step would be to do the sidewalk at the street and also the grass on the lawn. We'll start with the sidewalk because the grass is going to extend over the sidewalk just a little bit. Okay, so road, sidewalk, grass. Alright. Now the grass over here is going to be hitting the sunlight, so let's pull from this panel over here. Another brush I like to use with the grass is this 250 brush. I change the direction to whichever the area the grass is going to be showing, and now just kind of press down hardly with taps, or roughly. We get a little bit of highlights going on in there, and now let's see. I think this brush uses directionality of the strokes, so you have to be careful in your stroking. Oh gosh, I use that word way too often. Okay, all right, we're putting strokes of color down here, and now I'm going to pull in a different brush, going back to our very handy brush that I was using for everything else. I'm going to do some very light tapping, give it more texture. Putting it on top of the dark spots, and that's going to help make it look like it's broken up. Whoops. Go back right there. One of the best things about drawing in Photoshop is that you can hit undo. You can easily erase. You don't get any paint on yourself or your clothes. You don't ruin countless number of shirts and stuff. Okay, and we're going to call that grass done. I might come in my multiply layer and add a little bit more texture, but other than that, we're pretty much finished. And now I'm going to pull in a straighter line on this. What is this? This is like where the front door is. We'll do that there. We'll make this line a little bit more straight. There we go. And we'll give that some texture. Actually, I'll probably just borrow some from this back here. Help the whole place feel kind of connected. I'm gonna make it bigger and let that texture come in even stronger. And I'm stippling right now, just kind of tapping very lightly. Gives us a nice texture. Alright, now I'm going to kind of come over on top of this one more time. This is why we go background to foreground. Alright, now I'm going to stipple with a lighter color. Alright, so I'm just kind of going haywire with my brush right here, just letting it be very irregular, not natural. There we go. Now for the plants. That will be our last little work over here. I'm going to go ahead and do a darker spot over here, get a little bit of feeling for where the dark is and where the light is. Alright, as you can see down here, I worked originally with this light color right here, and then I put a darker color and then a much darker color using this brush right here. And then I went over one last time with the brighter color to reflect the light. We're not going to use that brush up here. We might use it a little bit actually, and then we'll go over on top of it to kind of break up that really strong definition. We do have the flow on very low, so it's not going to look really harsh and very precise. But we are going to need to come back in here a little bit with this brush and just kind of smooth everything out a little bit. I'm going to use a big brush, and you know, actually I might just choose a new layer and merge it once I'm done with this, because we'll use this stippling and it's going to get out of control. And we'll want to be able to come back and erase it without erasing the background and stuff. Alright, so a little bit more in a lighter color. Let's do some reflections now. Alright, so let's turn the flow on low. Let's turn opacity on low. And I'll come in with this harsh brush and do just a few placements on it. And now we'll do a darker one. The problem I see here is we got a little bit of the background coming through, and I don't want that. So we need to come in this, and I've still got the opacity and the flow on low, so it's going to take pretty harsh stroking, really hard, stroke it hard to get that to come up and appear. All right, yeah, we've stroked it hard. You can see that's what the new layer is. And let's go back to color, fix this little imperfection right here, small brush. Alright, don't want to stroke it that hard, so I'm going to turn up the opacity and the flow. Alright, there we go. Now let's turn on that, let's turn off the pencils so we get a really good idea for what we've got here. And it's looking great. That bush is nice and kind of impressionistic. It doesn't feel like it's competing with the foreground. So I feel like this has been a successful background study, or a background. I don't know if it's a study. A successful how-to video. One thing we could do differently is come up to the sky, maybe add a little bit, not much of a difference. What we would do is just pick this color. We would go a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit more yellow, and find a place where the sun is coming up. I would say it's coming up maybe back here, and we fill in that light back there. And we probably should have done this the first thing when we were filling in that sky, but there's not much of a difference, so you're not going to see too much of a like a rigid line right back there. So because it's not too much of a difference in color, we're not going to have a big effect in getting little pixelations around this edge. If it was a drastic color, we would see pixelation and stuff. But let's see, what is there left to do? We've got the bush, we've got the sidewalk, we've got everything textured. Oh, the other last thing would be to give the bus back here maybe some shading like we did with the school bus down here. Give it some texture, give it some color. And so I would probably just go ahead and select the bus like this. I'm going to unselect everything that's not green screened using my magic wand. Alright, we're going to take that off down there. Actually, let's use a polygonal tool. Oops. Let's add to the selection. Make sure that line is straight so nothing feels weird. Okay, so now we're going to come into the multiply layer, and if you don't know about multiply layers, it is going to it's going to build on top of the layer. If you do a light gray, it's going to kind of add that gray to the already what's laid down there already. So if we add this light gray, it's going to just make this a little bit darker. If we make this a yellow gray, it's going to make this more yellow and more darker. More darker. I'll show you right here. Actually, first let's go to a little bit more of an orange. That's good. All right, now we're doing a multiply layer on top of this, and you see how it's coming out, giving it more texture and darker over here. We probably don't want it to be that colorful because there's no light source on this side, just kind of reflected light. All right, now we have all this getting dark down here. Let's go a little bit darker, give a little texture. Big brush and just kind of stippling down here. All right, and that would finish that off. What we've got to do is, I forgot to unselect this outer area right here, so let's just bring a big box down and hit cut. All right, now let's use the eraser tool to erase some of this multiply over here. There we go. We could always pull this in front and fix that, so let's just do that. That means the bush layer is on top of the multiply layer. If it's not, you can see the multiply layer comes on top of the bush. Alright, so the only other thing I see wrong with this is that there would be a shadow underneath the bus. And so I really want to fix that. We're going to give it a very big brush. I'm going to come in with, let's see, I'm going to do a multiply layer. We're going to multiply this right over here. We'll, just not that much. We need to give it a nice stipple effect right there. Whoops, I erased too much. Okay. So I'm going to come in and make this dark too. Alright. A little bit of a dirty underneath right there. Okay, so now we look like we've got a very basic background that looks a little elementary, and I'm trying to make it look kind of elementary, so you don't really pay much attention to it. It's very abstract and very whoops, I'm doing the multiplier. Very abstract and very basic. I don't want your eyes to be wandering on the background of this comic. So we want your attention to be focused on the two characters, and we want the environment to be kind of a what's it called? An addition to it, kind of a supporting role, not a main role. All right, and I think the last thing you need to do is just to go around the edges, make sure there's no little pinholes like that. You would also make sure there's no pixelated areas. Let's find a pixelated area to show you what that is. Well, I don't see any. Looks like we did well. All right, no pixelated areas. We could fix this right here. That's a little pixelated. This has been a how-to video on painting digitally. We've done a suburban background right here. This is from the comic Tales from the Crypt Keeper Halloween edition 2017, which is out for sale now. You can find it on the website listed below in the description. It is part of the Tales from the Crypt Keeper series by Okayokayokok Comics. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you later.